Gen Z is the laziest generation of all time. That's the headline. That's what keeps getting repeated by HR departments, op-ed writers, older managers, and anyone who's ever watched a younger employee leave a job that was quietly destroying them. But here's what's interesting. Most of the people saying that are the same people who watched their own parents work 60-hour weeks, miss birthdays, skip dinners, and come home looking completely hollowed out, and called it noble. They were told that sacrifice equals success, that grinding yourself down to the bone was a virtue, that if you weren't suffering for your income, you probably weren't trying hard enough. Gen Z watched all of that. We saw what it produced, and a lot of us quietly decided we don't want that life. And somehow that decision became proof that we're lazy. So let's actually talk about this, because I think the laziness label isn't a diagnosis, it's a deflection, and I want to walk through exactly why.
Burnout used to be something that happened years into a career. It was the thing that hit people in their late 30s after decades of overwork. It was a midlife phenomenon. Now it's hitting people in their early 20s before they've even landed their first full-time job. And that's not an accident. Burnout didn't just randomly migrate to a younger demographic. We built the conditions for it. Think about what the average Gen Z person's academic life looked like. Deadlines from the moment you were old enough to have them. Pressure to perform, to score well, to tick every box. Then university applications. Then the debt decision. Do I take out a loan and hope this pays off? Then the actual degree. Then graduation into a job market that wanted 3 to 5 years of experience for entry-level positions. By the time most of us are ready to enter the workforce, we're not excited, we're tired. We've been running since we were teenagers, and the finish line keeps moving. That's not laziness. That's a system that burns people out before they even arrive.
For a long time, a university degree was the agreement. You put in the years, you take on the debt, and in return you get access to a career that actually pays. That was the deal. The deal changed. Nobody told us. Now people are graduating with significant debt. We're talking years of financial strain and landing in jobs that technically don't require the degree they just spent 4 years earning. Meanwhile, the person who skipped university and started a YouTube channel or a trade apprenticeship 5 years ago might be earning more than someone who just finished a master's degree. And I'm not saying university is worthless across the board. That's not the point. The point is that the guaranteed return on investment that we were promised doesn't reliably exist anymore. The degree used to be a differentiator. Now it's often just the baseline. And even at the baseline, I've seen and heard about people with postgraduate qualifications struggling to get interviews for roles that are labeled entry-level. If you spend 6 or more years in education, take on serious debt, and still can't get a foot in the door, that's not a personal failure, that's a broken pipeline. So if the degree path isn't reliable, and the corporate job market is incredibly competitive, a lot of Gen Z has turned to gig work. Delivery platforms, freelance contracts, short-term gigs, anything that gives you income without requiring you to convince a recruiter that your CV has the right keywords. And look, the flexibility is real. You can set your own schedule, work when it suits you, and be your own boss in the most literal sense. But the marketing around gig work tends to leave out some important details. You're responsible for your own tax management. You provide your own health coverage. If your vehicle breaks down or you get sick or anything goes sideways in your personal life, there is no employer's safety net. The platform doesn't care. You're classified as an independent contractor, which legally means the company gets your labor without any of the obligations that normally come with employing someone. A lot of people who tried gig work full-time have said the same thing. After accounting for fuel, vehicle wear, taxes, and time, you're often just about breaking even. The flexibility is real, but the financial security isn't. What started as a side hustle has quietly become a survival strategy for a lot of people, and the companies benefiting from it have structured it that way on purpose. Here's the thing I want to clarify. Gen Z doesn't hate work. We don't hate structure. We don't even hate showing up somewhere consistently. What we rejected was something more specific, being treated like a body filling a seat rather than a person doing a job. Think about what a lot of in-person office environments actually look like. You have micromanagers who track how long you've been away from your desk. You have meetings that could have been a 2-line email. You have passive-aggressive workplace dynamics that drain energy faster than any actual work. And you have this unspoken expectation that loyalty to the company means tolerating all of it without complaint. And the moment you push back or ask whether there's a more efficient way to do something, or leave at the end of your actual contracted hours, suddenly you're not a team player. Remote work showed a lot of people something important. When you remove the performance of busyness and just measure actual output, a lot of jobs can be done just as well or better without the commute and the office politics. And Gen Z, having grown up with that possibility, finds it very difficult to accept a return to the old model purely for tradition's sake. That's not laziness, that's having a reasonable expectation that your work environment should make sense.
Here's the thing that I think gets lost in the conversation about Gen Z and work. We're not asking for easy jobs. We're not asking to be handed things. We're asking for something that sounds simple, but has apparently become controversial. We want to feel like the work means something. Not in a grandiose, change-the-world way, just in the basic sense that the hours you put in connect to something real, that your effort matters, that the person above you sees you as a human being and not a replaceable unit in a spreadsheet. Gen Z, as a generation, grew up with more access to information than any generation before us. We saw early on how quickly careers can be disrupted, how companies lay people off after decades of loyalty, and how the traditional path doesn't guarantee anything it used to. So a lot of us made a different calculation. Instead of sacrificing everything for a company that might not be there in 10 years, we'd rather take a risk on something that feels worth the effort. A business, a creative project, something that, even if it's uncertain, is ours. That's not laziness. That's a generation that did the math and made a different choice.
So, is Gen Z lazy? I think the more honest question is, lazy compared to what exactly? Compared to a generation that measured their worth by how much they sacrificed? Compared to a system that rewarded overwork and punished boundaries? Because if the benchmark is willing to grind yourself into nothing for a company that doesn't particularly care about you, then sure, Gen Z is failing that test. Deliberately. The template that was handed to us doesn't work the way it used to. The costs are higher, the returns are less guaranteed, and the expectations haven't adjusted to reflect that reality. And when people point this out, the response is always, "You're just lazy. You just don't want to work hard enough." Maybe we're the first generation to look at the system clearly enough to say, this isn't working, and actually try to do something different. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think the lazy label is fair, or is something deeper going on? I read everything. I'll see you in the next one.